Hello, I'm the programming coder, and in this Python beginner series, lesson 6, I'll be teaching you about the if, the else if, and the else statements. So, let's get started. Now, before we start programming with these statements, I will first teach you about the basics and how they work. So let's first talk about the if and the else if statement, written like elif in Python, like this. Now, these two statements are related to each other. They're basically the same thing. They have the same function. They're just written differently. So first, let's talk about the if statement. Now, the if statement has a condition, and this condition will make the if statement run if this condition is true. And I'll just write T for true. And the if statement is going to have some type of output based on if it's true. And if it's true, the output will run. If it's false, the output won't run. So let's say this statement is false. Then the computer is going to go to this next statement, the else if statement, or the elif statement. Now the else statement also has a condition, and if this condition is true, then it's going to run with some type of output, and if it's false, then the computer will just continue down these if and elif statements until it gets to the last statement, which is the else statement. Now this is the final statement, and this statement will only run if all other if and elif statements are false. So this else statement doesn't have a real condition. There's no condition you write next to it. Its conditions basically if all of the other statements are false, it runs. And it will also have some type of output. So now we understand how the computer goes through these. Let's do a simple example. So let's say I have a variable a, and this variable is equal to 2. Now, let's say I have an if statement first, and this if statement is going to have a condition of a is equal to 1. And remember, when you say equal to, you write 2 equal signs, not 1. Because if you write 1, it might just think you're assigning a variable. So, if this condition here, is true, then the if statement will run with some type of output, and this output could be like a is equal to 1. Just print a equals 1. Okay, and then there will be a next statement, which will be the else if statement. And this else if statement will have a condition of a is equal to 2. And if this condition is true, it will run some type of output. Like a is equal to 2, it'll just print something like that. And then if both of these statements are false, then it will run to the else statement, which will print something like a is not equal to 1 or 2, something like that, I don't know. And let's just say we are the computer. Now, which one of these statements would we run? It's not the if statement because a is not equal to 1, it's equal to 2. We would run the elif statement because a is equal to 2. And the else statement will just get left behind because the elif statement is true. So we have learned about the basics of if, else if, and else statements, and now we're going to start getting into programming with them. Now it's time to start programming with these statements. So first, open a new file and leave it as it is. So we're first going to write our variable a is equal to 2. Now let's write our if statement. So we write if, then our condition, a equal to 1, and then put a colon after it, then click enter, and it will index your cursor and leave it as it is for now. So now we want to write our output in this block over here. So let's say print a is equal to 1. Okay, now I want you to go back to where this if statement is. So indexing is very important when typing your code, and you want to make sure you index correctly, or else the computer will not understand what you're writing. So remember to write your statements over here for now, and then you write your output a tab away. So if I click delete, and then if you click the tab, it will just bring it back to where it was. So let's write our else if statement and type elif in Python. Let's say a equal to 2, and then say print a is equal to 2. And then click enter, then go back, and then write your else statement. So else, just print a is not equal to 1 or 2. And now we can run this code and see what happens. So run it. And it's going to ask you to save it. Just name it if else if else. And then click save, and then it should run it, and it will say a is equal to 2. Now if I go back and change a to 1, and then if we run it again, we will see that it will say now that a is equal to 1. And if we make it equal to 3, you can probably guess that this will print out. So let's try something a bit more complex now. First, let's type in age is equal to input, and then write how old are you. Then put a colon and make sure it's neat like this. Add the spacing in the colon just for neatness. And make sure I convert this into a float so that we can use this on the operation. So now let's first make our if statement. So if age is less than 18, so if the age is 17 or below, it's going to print you are less than 18. Or not less than, oops, sorry guys. I should say younger, it makes more sense. Younger than 18. And then write elif age equal to 18. Then print you are 18 years old. And then let's make an else statement which will print if you're older. It will just print that you're older than 18 because all the other values are already taken. So you are older than 18. And now let's run this and see what happens. So I'm going to start with the lower, so I'm just going to say 10, and it will say you are younger than 18. And then if I exit this and I run it again, this time I'll type in 18, and it should say you are 18 years old. And then if I exit it and run it one more time and just make it older, so let's say 30, it will say you are older than 18. So now you know how the if, elif, and else statements are programmed in Python. It is now time for your assignment in this lesson. For the first question, if a equals 2 and the if statement's condition is a is equal to 3, will the if statement run? If you said no, you are correct. And if a equals 2 and the if statement's condition is a is not equal to 3, exclamation mark equal sign means not equal to, remember that? Will the if statement run? If you said yes, you are correct. And the last assignment is a challenge, and it's a programming assignment. Use if, elif, and else statements to check if someone's grade is an A greater than or equal to 90, a B greater than or equal to 80, a C greater than or equal to 70, a D greater than or equal to 60, or an F less than 60. And these are all your assignments for this lesson. It's time for the answer to your assignment. Now, we only had one question, and that was to use if, elif, and else statements to determine someone's grade. So what I would do first is open a file, and then make a new file. And let's just first make a variable grade equal to a number. I'll just say it's equal to 78 for now. And let's first make our if statement. First if statement is for an A. So if grade is greater than or equal to 90, then you're just going to print you got an A, which is pretty good. And then for the next, the elif, you just write if grade is greater than or equal to 80, then you just print you got a B. And then after this, you make another elif statement for grade greater than or equal to 70. And then you can print you got a C. Whoops, okay. And then you can do, for the D, you can just say elif grade greater than or equal to 60, sorry. And then you can print you got a D. And finally, you can use the else statement for if all of these grades are false, then it must mean you got an F. So print you got a F. And that's how you enter the assignment. So let's run this. I have to save it. I'll save it as grade, I don't know, grade number 1. I already did one with grade, okay. And it will just say, you got a C. So let's go back. And if you want to be a bit fancier maybe, you could use the input function instead. And then you can write, what grade did you get? And then you can make it a float or an integer. I'll just use a float because you can use decimal places with a float. And then you can run this, and each time you run it, it could be a new grade. So let's say I got 98. You got an A. Now let's run it again. And let's say I got, I don't know, an 85 maybe. And I got a B. And let's say I got maybe 37. And I'll just say you got an F. So that's the answer to this assignment. And next time, we will be doing a big project, actually. It will be making a calculator out of Python code. And it will be really fun, and I can't wait to do it with you guys. So stay tuned and continue on with the lessons.